Hi guys, welcome back to Cupcakes and Protein Shakes. I'm your host, Savannah. We're doing another episode where we sit with a fellow bikini competitor, Bikini Girl Chit Chat. So welcome to the show. Introduce your name and tell me where you are from.
Hi, everyone. My name is Arielle DeYampert, and I live in like the Chicagoland area, about an hour and a half north, so like almost on the Wisconsin border. But yeah, that is where I'm from.
Well, I see this trophies behind you. So I know we're going to talk about your journey and the stage. It looks like you've done multiple shows. So I'm excited to chat and see where you're at now first. Like what is this situation right now? Are we in prep? Are we in off season? And what does 2024 look like for you?
Oh, we love it. So we are just, excuse me, we're more like in just a life season right now. Um, I competed a few times last year in 2023. Oh my God, last year, this year, whatever it is. But then moving forward, I'm going to take this year off. Honestly, we're hoping to expand our family a little bit more. So, like, God willing, it's always a balancing dynamic act, I think, when it comes to competing, because, like, women, we do have a biological clock to some extent. And then competing also can take a toll on our body. So, it's like toggling between the two. I competed, we had a daughter, I competed again. And so we'll see what happens. Hopefully, we'll be blessed with another baby. That's really our plan for this next year, hopefully. And then we'll come back after two babies. I'll put like an Angelica and we'll come back. I mean, not Miss Olympia level, but we'll come
Right. I
back
was like,
after
and then
two.
you'll win the Olympia, and then you'll win
And
the Arnolds, and then it'll be just like her.
it'll be just like her. Yes, that's my life plan. So we're just going with that. But yeah, so right now, just like I've been, my last show was in the end of June. And so like the path I reversed and then I'm just kind of like hanging out in like just a comfortable maintenance weight, focusing on like just more like overall health. Like I keep saying I'm in like my wellness girl era. Like I'm like adding green shit to things. Can I swear on this? I swear a
Yes,
lot.
yes,
Okay,
yes.
good. So we're adding green shit to things. I'm like, I don't know what this is. Um, Trying to be a little bit more aware of like my artificial sweeteners because like that can we can toggle. We have a love-hate relationship with it. So that's kind of where I'm at now.
Yeah, I'm in the journey. I'm in it and I'm researching random stuff. I'm like, ooh, maybe I should add ginger today. Like, ooh, let me add this spice. It's supposed to help with inflammation, even though
Yeah.
I don't know if it's doing anything. And it's just fun.
I think that's a huge point. Like, make it fun. Like, make it fun, your journey. And I've had so many different phases where like I've gone through that. And it's like at the end of the day, when it comes to like showing up, being disciplined, all of that, if you can pull that lever of like making it fun, that's like a game changer in itself, right? Like whether it's food or whatever it is, like add that joy, add that pleasure and make it fun. Try different things. Have whatever. What did I get? I got artichoke the other day, and I was like with my daughter, and she's like, "Mommy, what's that?" I was like, "It's artichoke. It's so good." And she's like, "Oh, I'm gonna try it." And it's so funny because she bit a part of it, and I could tell her looking at me like, "I don't really like this," but I smiled and I was like, "Isn't it so good?" And she was like, "Yeah, mommy, it's good." I, it was okay. It was indifferent, but like, I think just like those small moments and like allowing food to like, yeah, it is something that we can enjoy. So like, make it fun.
Yeah, no, I mean, seriously, like this time it's if you are in an off season and you're an athlete, like this is the time to enjoy. It should be a complete differently than prep. Like prep have you could save your prep food for prep. Like in the off season, there's unlimited things that you can have and still hit your fitness goals, but they are fun. And sometimes they're not 100% healthy. Sometimes they are. You want to throw in random things every once in a while. It just depends on like what you want to get out of your prep and your off season in your life.
I think that comes back to like even more so than that, whatever, what do you want to get out of it, even when it comes to prep, right? Like we know girls that like go to stage and they're freaking eating like a Quest bar or whatever it is, like something that's maybe like quote unquote processed, not healthy. And like she did it. But it's at the end of the day, like what's her like intrinsic motivation for that, right? Like, cause we could see someone outside running and someone running could be like, absolutely miserable and they're running because they're burning off the calories and they hate their life and it's like so heavy and it like sucks, but then there also can be someone running that's like so fulfilled and they're doing it because they love the feeling and they're making themselves proud and showing up. And so I think when you establish as people who are competing competitors, future competitors, as you like dive into this realm, it's about defining what that is for you, what that role is going to be, and what you want to get out of your prep. Right. And so I don't fucking like eat fucking Hershey kisses every single day. There's
Yeah.
girls who like, I know some girl, like she did like a Snickers every day, the whole way through prep. You're going to be hungry. You're going to be more hungry. That's probably not the wise decision. You're probably going to like, it's setting appropriate expectations as a byproduct of that. So like when you're sitting down, what do I want to get out of this? What are my non-negotiables and what are my expectations? As long as all three of those align, you're going to have a good ass time and you're
Mhm.
going to grow as a human and it's going to be an incredible journey.
Yeah.
Any of those are off, fucking back up.
Yeah.
Recheck yourself because you're not going to have a good time. If your expectations are misaligned, if you're not doing it for a reason that is important to you, like one of your values, right? There's a million reasons people compete, and it's not anyone's job to say what is right or wrong as a reason, but it has to be something that matters to you and something that is fulfilling. One thing that I pulled out actually this last season, because this last season I was competing like nationally, and I was like, if I had a crystal ball and or a magic 8 ball, I don't know, whatever, tell the future, and I'm shaking it, and I could know if I was going to turn pro this year. If I knew I was going to turn pro at all, would I still prep? And the answer is yes. I'm going for my pro, like I'm going on a national stage. I'm like hoping that I'll win. It would be really cool to like get a pro card. And the reality is like, even if I was never promised that, I would still do it.
Right.
And that's when you find that happiness and fulfillment out of prep, where it's like, it does help you level up. And there is such that enjoyment in it and that process. And so as you're going in, everyone's going, and I know this is in thank God my first show was in 2014 when there wasn't this so much social media. I don't know if I had the capacity to take it all then, but everyone is going to do things different. And there's a million fucking ways to get to stage. And so I think if anything, like just hear that again, what are your expectations? What is your knowledge base? What do you want out of it? And what do you value most? Because it's so funny. This last, not the 2022, my family knows I compete. They're so supportive. Love. They have no freaking idea about any of it.
Yes.
My dad's like, the first time I did a show, my dad was like, that was kind of weird. I'm not going to lie. He's like, you were in a bikini up there and it was like a thong and I didn't know what to do. And I was like, it's okay, dad. And then he came to my shows later on. And then I think it was like, I don't know, maybe like my 8th show or something. He's like, oh, you got that. The other one, she was fatter. She was jiggling. I could see it. And I'm like, dad has no fucking clue what he's talking about.
Yes.
But I just love the support. So my family love them. They don't understand a damn thing, but they're here for me. And so I planned my show season out and I was so strategic. I was like, I'm going to get in front of Becky and Sandy, and then I'm going to do junior nats. And my mom's like, we're going to do a family vacation Memorial Day weekend. That was a show I was going to do in front of Becky. And I live in the Midwest. And so it's not like Florida where there's all these shows or Vegas. So I'm like, Mom, really? She's like, oh no, I rented us an Airbnb. Your sisters are going to come. Nah. And I'm like, God bless. Okay. Well, guess what? Family is a really important value to me. Like it's so important. And so guess what? There's a show every weekend. So
Yeah.
I was like, okay, Mom. So I'm like figuring for this. I was like, I want to do a warm-up show. And luckily I was already qualified. So I was like, worst case scenario, it's going to nationals, but like I wanted to do a warm-up show. So I found one 2 weeks earlier or something like that. I did it. It was great. It was fun. We had a good time. And then I went on my vacation with my family. And I'm telling you, I'm not genetically best. Like my thyroid's ass. I grew up overweight. I was like in plus size in high school. You know, I got loose skin. Like nothing. Like things are not working on my favor on that end. But I was like, so I did the show, and then 2 weeks later we went, and I was maybe like 3 weeks out from junior nat, something like that. I went, and I didn't bring a damn thing with me. We flew Spirit. It was cheap. You know, like I was like, I had my daughter. I was meeting my family because that's what was like really important to me. And to be honest, too, when you're like packing and traveling and flying and working full time and doing all shit, like I didn't have time to prep my food. I really didn't. Um, and I got there. I didn't have a food scale. I didn't have a body scale. I didn't like, we went there and I was literally like 3 weeks out. And I think it's like in those moments where we get so caught up and so neurotic and so like, oh my God, I have to say no. Or like I would have been so mad at myself if I would have not gone on that vacation. Like I would
Yeah.
have been so pissed. Right. And like
Yeah.
this is what I say, like whenever you're like going into these situations or traveling, people are like, oh my God, how did you do that? And I'm like, 3 things. One, I trust myself. That was built over time. By showing myself, I show up. I trust myself undoubtedly. You put me in any situation, I fucking know I'm 3 weeks out. I trust myself to not be an asshole. Two, I have a basic understanding of knowledge. Guess what? My meals are all fucking chicken and vegetables. That's not hard. It's a lean protein source and some veggies. What am I going to do? Eat, like, I didn't bring a food scale. I approximately know what 4 ounces of meat looks like. And I know what like a cup or two of veggies looks like. And I always say this, like, if an extra ounce of chicken or like 2 broccoli, like little pieces is going to like be the reason I couldn't set I have bigger problems. I need another show.
Yeah.
And so I know what the meals are. I have that basic understanding. Like, I know when things are cooked in oil, like whatever. And so I have that. I have my self trust. And I think just really stepping into that, like, I'm okay with hunger, like, right? Like, I'm okay. And I have those appropriate expectations. I have those appropriate expectations. Like, I'm going to be a little bit hungry. That's okay. I think a lot of people are starting to embrace that, where it's like, you're going into a dieting phase, you're going to be hungry. So I'm like, really take that step back. Whatever situation randomly comes up, if it's a wedding in prep, that year too, I was in a wedding. And not only I was in a wedding, my daughter was in the wedding and the toddler was a flower girl. So like I had to be there. Oh my gosh, it was a lot. It was a lot. But whenever you're going in prep, because life is still going to life, and 99% of us are just doing this as a hobby, as something fun that will have an end date at one point, and we will look back at life and think about events and memories and different situations that came up. As long as you are okay with hunger, you have those appropriate expectations, you have a basic understanding of food, and you live in fucking America. Guys, we made it through COVID. I've never been somewhere where I couldn't get food. I've never been, like, that's what, like, I trust myself. And like the running joke is like, I always have a tuna packet, but like, we were like, what do you bring when you travel? I don't know. There's a fucking Subway there. You can get any sandwich and turn it into a salad. You can go to Chipotle. Like, you can go to Jimmy John's, get it unwitched. Like, this is not rocket science, like, And so
I know.
Take the pressure off there.
I mean, okay, so you're bringing this up, and it's literally comical listening to you, because the conversations I've had with myself, I've literally overstressed myself out about, well, what if I can't have my homemade cooked 2 ounces of chicken breast when I am at my family's? Like, is my 2 ounces of chicken breast different than a different store's 2 ounces? Or if someone else makes 2 ounces of chicken, is it different? No, it is not. So you think you might be able to travel and just not sit at home and be able to successfully prep? And the year that I traveled the most was the best my physique had ever looked, ever. I was so freaking busy. I had no time. I had to get really creative. I was throwing crock pots for meal preps. And when I went to bed, I would grab a huge pack of chicken, throw it in there, shred it up, and I would just eat off of that. And I would have weeks where I would just use frozen vegetables and bags of lettuce. I did not cook anything. I did not have time for it. I was traveling one weekend, the next weekend, physique looked the best ever. And it's just that limiting mindset that some of these athletes get into in prep, and we're like, oh my God, what if I stepped outside and not on a treadmill? Oh, like, it's really, we do overcomplicate it. And if you have that expectation and you promise yourself, you're like, I'm going in to win. So no matter what comes up, I am going to hit my goals. I'm not going to be an asshole. I'm not going to just use it as an excuse that, oh, I have a wedding, so I wasn't able to stay on plan. Well, that was a you problem. It wasn't a wedding problem. There's weddings every weekend. They could have moved the wedding after your show, but are you still going to be able to hold it together? Like, it really doesn't matter. But at the end of your prep, you want to get the most out of your prep and out of your life, because prep is a long-term thing. It's not like we're doing it for one day. It is, okay. I mean, it's 6 months plus, right? Like, it's one prep can go on forever and ever.
Yeah, no, that's like, I mean, at this point, it's going to be 10 years I've been competing. And I think that longevity, that is part of the longevity for me that allows it to be that. And so 2 things. One, I like sharing this part of it because I think it's easy to be exposed to the narrative of like perfection and like, I counted every fucking blueberry and blah, 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 blah. And as humans, we use that as evidence of what's possible, right? Like the 4-minute mile, or the, when Deraja was like the first like Black girl that got on top, like whatever it is, it doesn't matter. We need that evidence to cultivate belief. Like the strongest driver of self-control is belief. The reason I have such a sense of that is because I believe, and I believe through evidence that I've built up over time. And so when we lack evidence in ourselves, we look to others. Oh, well, this girl's a mom and she did it. Oh, well, look, well, Sav traveled and did it. And so I think the more that we can like just share a message of like, it's not one way, and it's okay if your way looks different. And it's okay if you can ebb and flow in that space, as long as your expectations are aligned with it. And not saying you can't do well with that. And you're not saying in any one way, but it's not a one size fits all. You know, this got me for a really long time. The notion, this was hard. I had to process this. The act like a pro. And I was like, okay, I gotta act like a pro. I do want to like, I don't care. I'll go to my grave with it. Like, I want to be an IFBB pro. Like, we'll just say it. If it happens, I don't know. If it does, cool. I'm gonna give it my best fucking shot that I can within my capacity of prioritizing what my values are. I'm gonna keep going. I mean, like, who knows? Maybe I'll go to I'm 60. Maybe I'll turn pro in my 30s. Who knows? Who knows? I know I'm okay with that. Like, I got my crystal ball and I shook it and it said, you're never turning pro, Arielle DeYampert. And I said, cool, let's fucking run. Like, that's fine. And so when you just like, so stepping back at that, as long as you have those like expectations and alignment, your values are in alignment and you like feel good, try it. Not like fucking go on vacation and see how you can trust yourself with all of these. And then I think a great strategy to use is like, when you get in that headspace of like, oh, what if the chicken's off? What if, like, ask yourself better questions to get better answers, right?
Yeah.
That's like such a simple good line, but it's like, wow. Because I said, what if I was able to enjoy my family vacation, be so radically present, take pictures, laugh, make memories, and compete?
Yeah.
What would it look like?
Yeah.
It would look like me doing this.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Guess what? I got it.
I had to start asking myself this question that was like, is this normal? Would a normal person feel this way or feel this way? Like, if it like, and I wasn't being normal. A normal person would just go and eat when they're hungry, or like just make it work when you're there. Like, why is being a competitor so like different? Like, why do we have to pre-make our food? Like, it's not normal to go binge your face off at an event, a wedding, or an event with your family. That is not normal behavior to use it as an excuse. It's not really normal to triple or quadruple your calories for one day, even. That's not normal. Like, people don't just like do 5,000 calorie days. Like, that's not a thing. Like, it's not like you eat when you're hungry, you stop when you're full. People just like move their body when they feel like it, and that just like makes them feel good. Like, that's kind of normal. And competitors, like, we feel like we're special, and when we're in prep, like, we're the priority, which is true. You do need to make yourself a priority, but it's not really that different. It's like, you can get anything done. There's so many athletes. There's literally hundreds of thousands of athletes with every single career ever that have all these different situations that are probably busier than you, that are more successful than you, just because that they believe that they can do it too.
Yeah, we're definitely like people who pursue this, right? Like, they have goals, they have aspirations, and I think dialing it back and kind of like stepping back and understanding, like, whatever you're doing, is it adding to your life? Like, is it adding to your life? Like, do you feel good? Like, do you feel good doing this behavior? Do you feel good overeating? Do you feel good doing X, Y, and Z? And this is also something I want to point out, because sometimes if you have gone through a situation where you've had like you've abused food, right? Like, let's just call, like, to say it that, like, you've abused food, aka like you've binged, you overate, whatever it is. And in that situation, you were in a level of like high emotion. High, like, emotion is the glue to our memories. So the higher emotion you like an experience in a situation, the more you're going to remember it. That's how trauma works. And so even like, if you think about your shows, the one where you won first place, like for me, the first time I won first place in a show, oh my God, Sav, I remember it so vividly. If I can pull myself, I remember the song that was playing. I remember who I was competing against. I remember I remember so much about that day. Like, I can put myself there. And the reason why was there was a lot of emotion with that show. That was the first time there was a new version of Arielle that came out as a byproduct of that show, because I was like, I fucking did it. Like, I fucking did it. And so that high level of emotion, right? A memory. And this can go negative. This can go bad if we've experienced loss, if we've experienced trauma, or whatever it is. What we do in those levels of high state emotion, our brain is like, It's like what do we got to fucking remember? Like, it's like, what's going on? Like, let's remember this so we can keep ourselves safe next time. And so when you're in a high state of like shame, guilt, and you're binge eating, right? Your brain's making an association. It's making a neural pathway. It is ingraining a pathway that's like, oh yeah, like this high emotional state. Ooh, this food is good. It triggers it. And you do that enough reps, you're taking like a fork, right? And you're like shoveling it in. You're shoveling it in. You're creating it. And then because when it comes to like people overeating, there's a million reasons, some very neurological based when you're talking like, like obviously highly palatable foods are a thing, but it goes deeper than that, like in the lens of like if we're talking food addiction kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then you have like the disordered eating. That's like a little bit more mindset. And a lot of people are like throwing spaghetti at the wall, like hoping that, well, no, I have to like add variety, like I have to count my macros, or I have to let myself eat, let all food sit. Oh, maybe I should keep the food out of the house. Oh, maybe I should have exposure every day. And I feel like girls feel like so broken because they're like, they told me to let me eat whatever. And I have to like expose myself to the food so that I stop like craving it so much and doing it. And then they're like, oh, I fucking keep overeating it. And they're like, no, what I need to do is clean up my environment because and I'm like, oh, God bless. I'm so sorry. I've been there and I know it fucking sucks. But like, I'm sharing this nugget because when you were talking about being normal, if you have abuse food, if you've binge ate and you've created that pathway there, and you're in a situation where you're eating a cookie with someone and they're like, yeah, it's highly palatable, and other people eat it and they're like, this is good. And you look at it and you're like, holy motherfucker, I want another. And you're like, oh my God, why am I weak? Like, what the fuck? Like, what? I wonder if everyone else is thinking they want another one too. And you're like moving on, or you're eating, like, especially when you're alone, right? You're at home and you're like, I'm not, wow, do other people feel like, is this what urges are? Like, why? And then you're like, oh, but no, it's leptin, it's ghrelin, it's blah, 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 blah. And then you're like, I don't know, I'm 7 months post show. Why do I still feel this way? Okay. I just like, I want to put like, I want to like shatter the glass that you're crumpling yourself under and you feel really shitty about. You created pathways in your brain. You can create, that's a cool part about like humans. We can always create new pathways. Like you can teach an old dog new tricks, right? Like I could learn Japanese right now if I wanted to. You could learn I could learn how to ride a tricycle. Might take me a minute, but like we can learn new things. So fucking cool. Anyone could learn to pose, you learn to lift weight, you can learn a new language, whatever it is you want to learn, you can do it. You put enough reps in. But if you know how to ride a bike now, you're never going to forget. And that's important to understand. So offer yourself that compassion there, that like, if I've experienced a poor relationship with food and it was done in a highly emotional state, i.e. I felt a lot of guilt and shame around it. I wasn't just like overeating, because you know how some people are like, oh, they just overeat sometimes and they're okay. Well, it's not creating a fucking circuit in their brain because they're not invoking as much emotion. Like, and it happened, right? I wish more than anything I could have a magical pill that I would take it myself if I could, to like erase some of the poor relationship I had like created. And so when you're in those situations, I think it's important to know like, hey, you know what? I had an experience that makes me a little different. That different experience means that maybe I need to have some boundaries. Maybe I need to like, maybe it's not about having the food every day. Maybe it's not about making my environment so rigid, because now we're toggling with the brain and the mindset aspect of it. And so I think if you feel like, oh, I should be able to stop when I'm hungry, like I should just be able to have one serving, stop fucking doing that. It's useless. You're just making yourself feel like ass. Like no one likes that. Stop.
Yeah.
Stop. Like,
Oh my gosh.
face
Yes.
it.
It's such an
Good.
interesting topic too. It's just because like everyone makes their own relationships with food, and competitors, especially like that post show of you're okay, well, I have to be on plan, even though I'm not prepping right now. The better that I can be, the more strict that I can be in my off season, even though I'm like a year out, the better that I can prep now, it's going to be that pro card. And so if I'm just like restrictive now, I'll be extra restrictive in prep. And so I'll be even better. But it's like these weird little things that are just going on. It's like, are you legitimately crazy? Like, what are you saying? Like, this is not healthy for you. So you can turn prep, you can turn off season, you can turn food into a negative thing, but it can also be a really beautiful, amazing thing where you learn self-discipline, you learn how to say no. You could use prep as a tool of, oh my gosh, if I can say no to myself for 12 weeks, I can say no at any time. I should definitely be able to say no when my calories are higher. Like
Mm.
You know, like when you
Let's
are
talk
not,
discipline. Yeah, let's talk about discipline real quick because I can't. This is shit that grinds my gears. No, but 100%. I think that's so important. You brought up so many good points. That post show window, and see where you're crossing. And I think if people can and competitors, this is something like I wish, God, fuck. The only reason I know all of this is because I've done 16 shows. I've competed for 10 years. And like I said, like I binge ate after a show, fucking
yep,
a lot of them. And then I got into prep because I was getting too fat. And then I had a poor relationship with food. And then I blamed the sport for a little bit. And I was like, this is why I'm so fucked up. And then I was like getting my hormones done. And I was like, it bring down my hormones. Oh my God, I'm broken. Like I played every saga. I've been every narrative. It's my gut. It's my shit. I did the bro diet. I did the full on macro prep. I did the hybrid in between. I tried and give myself flexibility. I did, oh my gosh, I'm just going to let myself give into whatever that is that I want. So then I can just kind of like just be normal. I shamed myself for not being able to stop when I was full and I got mad that I was still hungry. And I'm like, I just must be different. I have a bottomless pit of a stomach. Like I could
right?
eat my husband under the table, who is
Yep.
like, and so, okay, okay, we've been there. We've done that, establish it. What I want, like, again, to hear, it's like, it's so multifactorial. So whoever fucking says food is fuel, let's ignore them. It is social, emotional, mental, all these things. And even what you were saying there, like that post show window. Now, there's the physiological aspect of like you don't know hunger and fullness, and yes, you do not want to rapidly put on body fat. And like ideally, we would slowly to some slow is subjective, but like you would work your way up to get yourself to a good place to where you are comfortable, you feel good, and you're in a good starting pot. There's that physiological aspect. That's the, just that aspect of it. And then you have the mindset, right? Of like, what is restrictive? You got to define that and then like realize everything. We talk about this when it's like prep is your choice, but like it's one thing to say it and it's one thing to say like, oh, stop at a serving, but it's another thing to act it out. And so like when you genuinely embody like it is my choice, and you practice that behavior, that's completely different. And when you're operating out of that restrictive, like kind of like scarcity aspect, like you you can't help that. I think sometimes people even like even the notion, I think one thing I've really learned is like the beauty of duality. Like, I think it is important to like respect what you want and like go after what you want, but like to be like, oh, I don't care what other people think. That's a fucking lie. Like,
Just
who
a
doesn't care
lot.
what other people? We're creatures of love and belonging. You need to go get like an MRI done. Like, if you don't care what people think about you, that's odd to me. That's odd to me on a psychological framework that you would not care when our like right under food and water, right above food and water is love and belonging. So you're telling me I don't care. I'm going to do me. Okay. Okay. Like you can do what's most important. And I care what people think. I care what people think about me as a mom, as a coach. I want people to think that I'm kind, as that I'm loving, that I'm, positive, that I want people to have a positive aspect, when they think of me. Simultaneously, I will do what's going to be important to me. So like, be honest with yourself in those ways. And so when it comes to this post show window, being honest about your mindset and like what you're viewing as like restrictive and what's important to you. And like that whole framework, fuck, there's a lot in mindsets. Like I was talking about the girl running, like, why are you doing that? Like, that's really important. And then mindset expectations would follow under mindset, right? Like, for example, if you go a rice cake over, I think people toggle between this too. They toggle between I need to give myself grace. But then when I give myself grace, I'm an asshole. I need to be really hard on myself. Well, then I'm really hard on myself and I can't stick to it. And so I'm really strict and then I'm an asshole. And so let's get rid of the notion of just like grace and it's okay. And let's stop being assholes and let's embrace compassion and problem solving. And so when I have a day where I'm eating and I got my meal, like I got my meal plan, I'm following, I'm like, I got my set and I end up having fucking, let's say 4 rice cakes over. It's 200 calories. It's 4 chocolate rice cakes, them bitches. I don't know what they put in the chocolate one, something, but yeah. So we get it. And I would be like, okay, I ate that. Makes sense. Hungry, compassion, and like problem solve. Okay. Where am I at right now? Like what led me to have it? Was it because I was home? And then you can get very tactical with it. You can get very mindset based with it. What's your pattern here? Find the patterns in your off days. And if it's saying like, hey, this is where that boundary thing comes in. You know what? Fuck. When I don't have that pre-portioned, like get rid of the should, could, would, right? I work from home. I'm literally home all the time. Rice cakes, they don't need to be prepped or portioned. My happy ass will still put them in a Ziploc bag.
Mhm.
And even like, cause I'll have like two, right? Like I'll put like two. I will take two and I will waste a Ziploc bag on it,
Yeah.
even though I'm at home in it, because that is a small buffer. And I'm going to do unapologetically whatever's going to help me be successful. I pick wisdom over pride. And so when you have those times where you're like not being perfect, whatever your notion of perfect is, when I have, for me, how I would word it is like, when I fall shy of the expectation I set for myself, because like I like setting high standards, I don't want to set the bar low. When I fall short of the high expectation I set for myself, I offer compassion because there was a reason I did it. Because like, of course I want to do well. Like there's no reason why I would want to like not follow through on my word. So like, okay, there's clearly a reason, maybe hunger, exhaustion, whatever. And then I take a step back and I problem solve and I write that shit down. Because if I were to ask you right now, like, what's 3 + 4? 7, right? Like, that's easy. If I were to say, like, what's 3,087 plus 552? You'd be like, okay, let me get a piece of paper and write it down. Like, I don't know. That's a hard problem. Guess what? Hard problems aren't being meant to be solved in your head.
Yeah.
So, like, write that shit out and, like, ready to be like, okay, this is it. You'll find the pattern. And then you can kind of, like, make a game plan from there, tweak it. And then when it comes to that discipline is not willpower, which easily gets misconstrued. Like I can sit in a room with, like, for example, if I was like starving and there was a piece of, there's M&Ms. M&Ms are my thing. And there were M&Ms in front of me and I didn't eat them, I would like, like, oh, I'm just going to white knuckle it and have willpower. Discipline, because the notion of like, oh, discipline's a muscle and it gets stronger over time and like that. And it's like, if that, if it was that, then like, if you were like, if that was it, then you would be disciplined equally in all areas of your life. It wouldn't be like, oh, because how many people were like, I don't know, I'm disciplined at work, I'm disciplined in doing this, I'm doing, but when it comes to food or whatever it is, okay, food does have that reward center. You did probably, if you've been Jay and you've been through that hellhole, you got some work to do up there to rewire some things, do the best you can. But like when it comes to discipline, it's far more of a lever that we pull. And so like there's this notion of like a discipline equation, right? So what do I have to put on this side to get discipline for this side? And so when it comes to like work, that's pretty easy, right? You're not going to get a paycheck, you're going to be homeless.
True.
That discipline, that's it. That's all that it is. That's all that it is. So what happens with a show is when you have a show, you exert more discipline because you have the people pressure, you have the date, you have the money you've spent, you have the people that are following you. You have so much on that discipline lever here that like, of course you're going to fucking follow through. And so whenever you're in a season, take a step back. In my discipline equation, like I have a little like thing that I made for it, but when look through and say, ask yourself a couple of questions, right? Like why not? Like, why am I doing this? Why not? How is it going to add to my life? Like, how is it going to add? And then how can I make this easy? How can I make this fun? How can like, because if you think about it too, like when we're talking about discipline, why are you more disciplined when you get your workout closed the day out, the night out before? Because you made it easy. Why are you more disciplined when you sign up for an Orange Theory fitness class? Because you made it fun. You had your friends. Why are you more disciplined when you have a coach? You have that connection. You have accountability. Like it's just leveraging it. And so any area that you're not disciplined in, you just got to stack more in your favor. Make it easy, make it fun, make it enjoyable, put it in front of your face. Go to your whys, your why not, like meal prepping with me. Right. I saw this Instagram ad. It was so cute. Fuck Instagram ads. But like I got one and it was a little toddler kit. It was a toddler cooking kit. It was a plastic knife and it's like they don't cut themselves. So I bought it for my daughter and I was like, Gabby, we're gonna meal prep. And she was like cutting strawberries. And then I had like the little food scale and I was like, okay, I want you to put 5. So she's like counting the strawberries. So she's counting the strawberries, putting them in. And I was like showing her the number on the food scale. I was like, do you know what the number 8 looks like? And so she's doing that and I'm prepping my food and I'm like, fuck, I am mom of the year. Look at me. I'm prepping my food. My daughter is counting. She's cooking. And like, I made it fun. I made it enjoyable. It didn't like, sometimes when we think discipline, we think like David Goggins, like running with a bloody foot, like discipline over motivation. Fuck, like just like I'm such an advocate of the word and. So like, let's use discipline and motivation, not one or the other. And like, if you feel like, oh, I have to be disciplined, sometimes our brain goes like, that has to be really hard. And I'm like, or it could be cutting strawberries with a fucking 3-year-old and me telling myself I'm mom of the year. So
Mhm.
those are my thoughts on discipline.
Oh man. Oh, I just love you so much because I'm like, this is speaking to my soul so hard. Because when I think about like bodybuilding, it is like immediately I think I imagine a reel and it's a girl. It's some girl out there. It's my
Yeah.
competition. And she's in there, she's dripping sweat. She's literally eating nothing and happy. And she's like, I've stick to my plan for the last 10 years straight. I have not had one candy bar and I only blah blah blah. Like I'm imagining this girl and she's not real. She's not, but and this is who I think in my head I have to be better because
Yeah.
there have to be competitors out there that are 100%, 125% on plan and they're eating literally clean year round and they're training crazy and they're making these crazy gains. And that's not real. It's like these little things that we make up in our head. And like as far as discipline, it like prep doesn't have to be hard.
Hmm.
It shouldn't. It really shouldn't be. Like we're just dropping body fat, guys.
Yeah.
Our we want to overcomplicate it. Yes, we're making these gains and we're doing posing and we're prepping our food or stuff. No, you are literally doing a little bit of cardio and prep, a little
Yeah.
bit more. I mean, sometimes it's aggressive, but it's like, okay, we're cleaning up our diet a little bit. That is like, if we really break it down of like what's actually happening,
Yeah.
it's crazy, right? We're
It's
just eating a little bit more and we're eating a little less. Like that is it.
And that perspective is so, so important for like a couple of reasons. One, psychologically speaking, and there's a bunch of research on this. There's been a couple of different studies where like our perception matters. Your psychology, the narrative you play for yourself will unfold in your body. And so when we're talking about like the hunger aspect, right? So when we're talking about like maybe you see your calories going low or whatever, if you think thoughts like, oh my God, I'm gonna be so hungry, your body
Well, yeah.
literally is going to release like leptin, ghrelin, insulin, all of those hormones that are not going to work in your favor. Like it is like they tested blood on this. So it's not even just like, oh, it's woo woo. Like, no, physiologically speaking, that is going to happen. And so when you have that mindset, we're like, too, like with me, I'm like, I'm just like, for example, when I was on vacation, I was like, I'm just having chicken and veg. Like, I'm not here for a long time, but just a good time. Like, that's really it. I was like, it's just, and that, that perspective, when you embrace that in bodybuilding at its core, it translates to every area of your life. And this is the beauty of it, right? So my husband's competed a couple of times too. And we decided to have the brilliant idea of having my niece, who's only 11 days older than my daughter, over. And so we have two 3-year-olds sleep over. And at the end of the day, the next day, we both woke up and looked at each other and I was like, he was like, that was fun. Like it was cool. And I was like, yeah. I was like, they got to go play in the play area at this place we went to. I was like, they had pizza. I was like, they stayed up late, right? And like, so we're talking about this. And I paused and I said, do you know this is only because we're choosing to see it this way, right? And he was like, what do you mean? And I said, because if we look at it, when they went down the slide, my daughter fucking got stuck and I had to put my big booty up and I had to climb up in the play place and get her, right? She's crying. So I had to do that. And then we went to the mall to go see Santa. And then my niece was like scared and crying and didn't want to go. And then we burnt the pizza a little bit when we had it. They woke up at 3 a.m. My daughter shit her pants. Like they woke up at 3 a.m, went to the basement, destroyed it. Like, and it's like, what kind of life do you want to live? What kind of prep do you want to have?
Yeah.
When you embrace it with that attitude, biologically, your body's going to respond well. Psychologically, you're going to respond well. You're going to enjoy it. It's going to like give to the longevity of the sport and all of that. And the notion of needing to be perfect, just touching on that, it's like, so we have our inner critic and we have our ego. I'm going to give us like a little quick frame that'll help with it. So you're communicating with yourself. Like, right, we're saying like, oh, when you're talking to yourself, when you're saying that, you're like, oh, whatever. Whenever you're communicating, you're either talking or you're listening. You are not doing both. So right now I'm talking, you're listening. When you're talking, I'm listening. And so when you're communicating with yourself, you cannot be doing both. And so when we're talking, that is generally like people would say like your higher self. Like that's your prefrontal cortex. That is like Sav 3.0. She's a bad bitch. She's got all of her goals and dreams. She's like, I'm going to do it. And I'm like happy and fulfilled and thriving. Like she knows that. And she's the one who's like, getting her planner, writing out her day, living her best life. And that is talking. You are planning, you are doing that. Then in the moments where you're listening, it's like, that wasn't good enough. Like, you got to try a little bit. You're fucking up here. right? You're listening. That's not you. So disassociate your cognitive, like your constructive, but between your destructive thoughts and separating that. So because it's when you do that and you hear that's like, oh, I got to be doing harder. It's you don't have to be like, why am I thinking that? You're not thinking that. You're not fucking thinking that. It's your inner critic. It's your ego, which your ego is gonna like protect you right from the outside. And ego is to differentiate the two. Ego is very much so like it's not me, it's them. Victim mentality. Inner critic is it's not them, it's me. Defensive because it wants you to because it wants to keep you like safe. And so understanding the roles those two play. And then if you're listening, it's not you. When those thoughts come in, I generally have to say, like, treat it like spam calling. Like, you don't have to answer it. And the beauty of understanding that that's a different part of your brain is when you have, sometimes spam calls and it has your area code and you're like, do I answer that? Did I have something somewhere? Do I need to pick something up? For me, I'm like, is Gabby with someone? Like, what the fuck? How did they
Yeah.
get my area code? I just like, I get nervous. And so sometimes when it fuzz my area code, I answer. And they're like, please vote for this senator. I'm like, what the fuck? I hang
Yeah.
out, right?
Yeah.
And then sometimes when your iPhone comes, it'll say like potential spam and you're not going to answer it. And so I think understanding when you can be like, that's not me, it's like the label of potential spam and you just don't have to answer it. Or when you're driving in the car and you have a song come on and you're like, I don't like that song. You just click next. Like same shit. So when those thoughts come in and you're listening, whether it's your ego, your inner critic, whoever it is, it's not you. It's not you. You don't get to put that on yourself. And you can spam call it. You can even, I have something where it's like you could do like to help you differentiate between the two. If you get two journals, get like one really bougie, nice journal that's like super fancy. You love it. You have a glitter pen or something with it, and then get like a really shitty journal that's like from the Dollar Tree and like pencil. And so like when thoughts come in, if it's a shitty thought, write it in the shitty journal and then just keep like writing it down. And then when you get done filling it up, like burn it, whatever, throw it away, crumble it. And then the nice thoughts that come in, write it. And it's going to help train you to differentiate between the two because when it comes in, then you can just like, and that I would say like a good suggestion is like name your inner critic something, like just call it something else. That Doja Cat song, Paint the Town Red.
Yes.
So when your inner critic comes in, you should be like, bitch, I said what I said. And then just ignore her. Like she's a bad bitch. She's a rebel. She's a little devil. You don't want her. And like, if you think of that song, look how lighthearted it is, right? You smile, you laugh because when you're in the moments and everyone's fucking inner critic is like, like that's going to be the reason you don't place because you didn't do that. And this one cardio session, and no, we like to play the heroic, like David Goggins, like I'm gonna fucking do it. It's like, no, realistically, like I'm showing up. I'm here. I'm doing as long as you do what you said you're like I'm doing what I said I was gonna do. Right. And as far as that goes, like, bitch, I said what I said. I'm not gonna listen to you because this is the thing. You can't get to listen to that in the moments of like, yeah, push harder, you're not doing good enough. And then when she's like, oh, have a little bit more of a cookie, you're not going to listen. If you're listening, you're listening. And so this is also where I just get passionate and worked up. You can feel it. I'm calming myself down. But like, just don't listen at all. Let's solve the problem. Because intermittently listening to someone is far harder to control than just never listening at all. It's like gambling, right? Your intermittent dopamine response. Gambling is very addictive for a reason. Guess what? The house always wins. And it's because you keep playing because you think there's a chance. Like, is this the thought that is this the session? Or is this, then you're going to listen on the other end too. It's always 50-50. And so I think if you can just eliminate that and just go with the part of you that's talking in that version, you're going to be far greater off, far more successful.
Yeah. I mean, this is a conversation that every athlete needs because, man, we are so hard on ourselves. And it's like you're like the 1%. Like you look incredible year round. If you are able to even step on stage, you're probably healthy and you probably are the 1% of people that actually go to the gym and that actually care about their health. So if you really like, we really have to just go easy on ourselves sometimes. It's like just because you are 10, 11 pounds above your stage weight does not mean anything else. It does not mean that you're less than. Those like conversations that you have of, oh, blah, blah, like everything. It's just like, we have to stop. We have to stop. It has to get to a point where you're just like, okay, I have to be my biggest fan. right? If you are beating yourself up, the world's going to beat you up anyway. Like you got to be supporting you. You need to make this sport fun because
Yeah.
you can make this as hard as possible. When you were saying something, I was imagining I've done preps where I've done 2 hours of cardio, and I've done preps where I've done 2 hours of cardio. And I say that because one prep I was like, oh gosh, it's 2 hour, blah, blah, blah. And then I turned it to
Yeah.
and I know I have to do this. And that was my time to listen to my favorite podcast. I'd go walk outside. I'd walk literally halfway across the town. I'd take my dogs on a walk. I would enjoy it. I would learn. I would educate myself. I would just like have this me time. Oh, I'm ready to do my cardio. And the whole prep, I was so happy. I was like ready for it. I was excited for it because of me. It wasn't because of anything else. It just was like I accepted this as I instead of making it hard and fighting myself, I'm like, you know what? Why don't we make this fun? Why don't we make life fun and prep fun? It's already hard, right? Things don't have to be as hard as we work these situations up in our head.
Yeah. And then you go back to like that honestly just circles back to the discipline equation where I was saying, right? Like in that prep where I've done 2 hours of cardio pretty much every prep my whole entire fucking life, right? Like every like actually probably something I did more. Like let's just not go down that road. But anyways, it's when you take that aspect of it, when you were like when I was doing 2 hours and you were doing 2 hours where I was like, motherfucker, I'm 2 hours, like that took a lot of willpower.
Yeah.
That took a lot of what people conceive as like discipline, right? No, it just took a lot of willpower. And it's hard to expend your willpower because your brain, like we don't want to have to waste it because it is finite. But discipline, no, you were like, I'm gonna make it fun. I'm gonna like stack it with something else. And some of them are very like tactical things, like stack it with something, do it at a time you prefer, include others on the journey. Like I said, like when it comes to meal prepping, like I'll have my daughter do it. I'll like try new foods. I'll change it up, like make it fun, make it enjoyable, figure out a way to do it. And then also just embrace, like I think a lot of us kind of sink into that like radical gratitude at the end. Well, at least I hope most people do. And then it's like, I always get to like, I, I always, sometimes I'll just like say to myself, like, this is the golden year, right? Like this is the day. This is it. Like prep, like show day's gonna come and go so fucking fast.
I
And it's
know.
like this is the moment that like you savor. And this is the moment that is like building you up into the person that you want to be and holding on to all of that. And I think continuing to lean into that. And then as far as like being hard on yourself, right? It's literally does jack shit. But
Literally.
there's something we can do because I think so. This is the notion. People are scared to not be hard on themselves because they think as a byproduct, they're going to be like lazy and get like super fat, right? Like if I'm not hard on myself, then I'm just going to pendulum swing. And I think so like, okay, so there's a couple things. One, we have to practice the all or nothing mentality because I think it's logically said. Like, I think people know like, oh, if I only have one, it's blah, blah. Or I know if I, just did this, it's like logic, but you have to practice. So great way to practice the all or something, I just call it the all or something mindset, is set a minimum baseline that there's no way on God's green earth you can break, right? And so like, what's doable for the gym? It's not like 4 session or like, an hour session 4 times a week. No. My minimum baseline when I like retrained myself in this was I am going to drive to the gym parking lot. Right? I'm going to drive to the gym parking lot. That's it. But this is the important part. I drive there and I am sure that I don't frame it as a waste. I don't say like I feel like I celebrated it, and it's hard to do that, but celebrate yourself in the something because your brain only has evidence, right? It's operating out of F of what it knows. It's smart. So it's like we know that when we were perfect, we hit our goal. We know that when we did this, we did. So if you don't have evidence of celebrating yourself for doing something, it's not going to do, you can logically think it all the fucking time you want. You can read about building muscle, but until you get into the gym, you're not going to build any. And you can logically say, I know that balance is what I'm seeking. And I know I want this moderation, but like, until you practice it. And so there were times where it's like, I literally went to the gym and I was like, yeah, the day got away from me and I just did shoulder presses. And I was like, fuck yeah, I did shoulder presses. I made myself take a selfie and I was like, I'm proud of myself. I showed up today. Like, that's what I did. And the same with like food. Like I would like do this challenge, like whatever your thing is, leave 3 bites on your plate. It's not a waste of your macros. It's not a bad thing. That's showing you, that's practicing that. And I've like, walked through that with like girls as well. And it's like, it's so funny because the first time they're like, that was so fucking hard. And I was like, yeah. And then it's like, and then you get to the point where you're like, I'm kind of getting a dopamine hit from it. Like I kind of like, like that. And the same with your body image. I think a big mistake is like, so when we're in prep, a lot of times we were feeling like ass, right? Like towards the end. When you're the most shredded, when this is the worst, or when people set them up for failures in the most, it's like when you're the leanest and you're the most tired and you're fatigued and you're like, oh my God, I just feel like shit. And then you look in the mirror and you're like, well, at least I got abs. And you check yourself. Dopamine, brain pathway. The more you do that, the more you're associating that. And then all or nothing, when you're in off season, it's like, just put a hoodie on and work. Hello, no wonder you're fucking bad body image days.
Mm-hmm.
Like you have to take that step back, right? And like celebrate yourself along the way for showing up in that season and take pictures and like, don't like do your best. It's hard, but it's only hard because you trained your brain to like, when you don't feel great, like physiologically, I don't feel great. And like sometimes when we might feel like bloated or full, if we like overate or like even our macros are just higher, like I feel it. So you trained your brain. If you feel icky, look in the mirror and you'll feel better. And then it's like, what the fuck? Wait, there's a fun house. Like, no, you told me if I look in the mirror, because right, we're like feeling all bloated and we're like looking, we're like, oh my God. And then that's what turns into a bad body image day, where it's like, I don't feel so great. I don't feel so good. Let me look in the mirror. And it's like, I was expecting a dopamine hit and I got jack shit. That's hard. So you're not even at baseline, you're lower. And so you did that. And then it's like, oh, now I have a bad body image day. And then your inner critic chimes in and then you're just a fucking spiraling. And so as I promise you guys, the uncomfortable, this is what I always say, the uncomfortable part is not fucking being hungry or doing cardio. It's like taking a selfie when you feel thick.
Yeah.
But let me tell you, to live a life where you like like I can, and I say this with such sincerity. I would never say, like, knowing all the shit that I went through and knowing I have a daughter, like I genuinely don't have bad body image days, no matter how bloated or whatever I am. Like, I don't experience it. Like I wake up and I'm like, yeah, this is my body. Like I've seen it. Like I look at and I celebrate it no matter what. Like I have some tight ass booty shorts. My thighs are rubbing together and I'm like thick right now. Like I feel it in all my ways comparatively, right? We're still the 1%. No one would look at me in the gym and think that I'm fat. I'm not an idiot. But like, yeah, I know I'm thick. And I take a picture and I'm like, I still like, I posted one this morning. Like I'm still going to do it. I'm still going to wear the shorts. The uncomfortable part is that. And like, when you then get to that place where that's where the freedom that everyone wants, right? Where it's like, I'm not like, I'm okay embracing building and I'm okay. And like, I'm not scared of like the shreds going away. It's not the shreds going away. You fucking just want to you want a dopamine hit. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all you want. You want to get high.
Yeah.
Okay. Last thing, because I think we're almost done. I'm sharing this last little nugget because it's a big one.
Okay.
Mental health check-in. Do a mental health check-in at the end of the day. And so 1 to 10. 1 is your shittiest day. 1, like, would you probably experience a handful of these your whole life? Like you lose a loved one. Like it's a really hard, heavy day. Like a 1 is like, I can't anything.
Mm-hmm.
A 10, you're not obtaining that legally. A 10, you were taking some substance, some mind altering substance. You are like, your brain is euphoric, right? You got serotonin, dopamine, all that shit. And you're like, I'm fucking high, whatever it is. I don't know what you're taking, but it's something. And it's probably more than one thing. So you got 1 and you got 10. The reality is most of our days are going to fall between a 4 and a 6. And if you want to have this balance and a positive body image and the freedom and be healthy and fit and strong, just aim for less of 5s and 6. You got to release, because with every 6, you're probably going to have some 4s, but every time you chase an 8 or 9 or a 10, you're going to have a 1 or a 2. And so I think a lot of people expect that. Like they expect to be like, oh, I should be an 8. Like, again, you just want the dopamine. You can't be bored. Like that's a big thing too. Like learn how to fucking be bored. Learn, like there's so many things where it's like, I'm eating out of X, Y, and Z. You literally just want to get high. And I'm going to, like, you call a spade a spade. You just want to get high. And this is another thing too. When you're like, relax at the end of the night and people like relax with food and they're like, just have a cup of tea. Yeah, have a cup of tea. But let me tell you, there's no fucking cup of tea that I've ever had that tastes like a chocolate chip cookie or like a protein bar or like a rice cakes, whatever we want. We can call them, because most of us are like, if we're overeating, it's like healthy fit food or whatever. Like that bag of chocolate mini rice cakes that is undoubtedly 1 serving, but the bag says 4. Like, no, a tea is not going to be equivalent to that. But you don't want that. You're just literally getting high. And so just take it back. And I think understanding that aspect of the brain is really important. Because I think when people think it's just mindset, like, I just have to be okay with this. I just have to tell myself it's food. That perpetuates a worse cycle. And I think that's where people end up in like, I'm a little bit of a lull to like, I hit a depression because they are like, no, I'm focusing on my mindset. And they feel like they can't get their mindset. Like it's more than your mind, it's your mind and your brain. Okay, now I'm shutting up.
Yeah. I mean, everything. It's yes. That's yes. Yes. No,
Yeah,
I mean,
love
when
it.
you're saying it, I'm just like, I'm not gonna lie. I've been not having some good times. And when I look back and I'm like, what is different? Why have I been in this little lull? Or why have I been feeling in like it's not sad time, but like,
Bunk.
why have I been, yeah, like, why am I just like feeling in my feels? Like, why?
Yeah.
It's just because I chose to. There's no real reason. It's not like, it's like, okay, I've been this weight before. Why do I feel different about it now? It's like I'm in different shape. I've had the most muscle. So why do I feel a certain type of way? Like it's interesting. Like you
Two
bring up,
things. Yeah,
yeah,
two things in that. We could do like a coaching podcast if you want to, not to. But like I think two things in that is like one, does it make you feel better to say it's just my mindset or whatever, like you said, where you're like, oh, it's just my mindset. You said that, right? Does that make you feel better?
I don't think so.
And I think that's a part of it. And
Yeah.
so I think that's what people put too much pressure. They're like, oh, it's just mindset. Okay, like let's take that back for a second. And so it's saying like, okay, I'm in a funk. One thing you can do yourself is ask yourself a better question. If you're feeling apathetic or in a funk, instead of saying, why am I in this funk? Say, what makes me feel better? Right.
Mhm.
So great one. So let's just like stem it and say like, okay, what do I know makes me feel better and how can I implement it? And then when you set that up, success leaves clues, right? And like you can find the patterns in that. And when it comes to like being in a just like a funk as a like overall, I think why do you think you're in a funk?
Me?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, because I've not been doing what I've been telling myself I've been doing. So it's like every day I'm not
Mm,
hitting that
okay.
100% expectation. It's like I'm not training how I want to. I'm not hitting my nutrition how I want to. I'm not being consistent.
Okay. So what we got to do is you're right now, this is Sav, and this is what Sav wants to do. This
Yes.
space between my hands is the failure gap. And this is
Yeah.
what you're doing. And
Yeah.
everyone has a failure tolerance. I don't care if you're fucking like, if you're an Olympian, if you're competing, if you're going for your pro card, everyone has a failure tolerance. Inevitably, there are girls who've done a shit ton of national shows and they hit their failure tolerance and then they stopped competing.
Yeah.
And this goes in all areas. We all have a failure tolerance. Don't be an asshole. You do. It's a novel and it's heroic to say like I'm just never going to give up. Okay, but like enough failure. Again, psychologically, I'd be concerned if you were like, I'm not okay. So you have a failure gap. So if you want to get here, let's just go like this and bump the line. And I know it's hard for high achievers to be like, so for example, right, that like aspect of like, I'm not training as hard as I want. Right now, my game plan is 5 days a week, this. And I'm like, okay, let's do two. I'm not going to make progress on two. Well, no shit, Sherlock. We're trying to get you out of the all or nothing mindset.
Yeah.
Like, of course you think that. Of course you think you're not going to make progress on two. And your
Mhm.
brain is not going to believe you make progress on two until you just show up for two and you celebrate fucking doing two.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, like you said, my body looks the same. I've been this way, whatever. It's not any of that. It's we all want to feel good. We
Mhm.
want to feel good. You want to feel good. And
Yeah.
a big way to do that is like be proud of yourself and celebrate that. So building that up where it's like, where am I at right now? Meet yourself there. Don't belittle it. Don't judge it. And know that in the long run, that is what's going to create your progress. And having someone that like is there with you to meet you in those expectations. Like, I think this is a really good balancing act when you're like finding a coach, right? That's like, that's going to help you do that, hold you to the standard and have you continue to make progress and show up without making you feel like I'm not enough or like I'm still whatever it is, or I'm low on the totem pole. I'm not there, like whatever it is. Find someone that's going to help you set those, stay consistent. Because when you consistently show up, this is the thing. When you give your brain evidence that you're showing up, you build more self-belief. Self-belief is the biggest driver to self-control. You have more self-control, you can execute at a higher clip. So it is pretty like, once you get going, it's like a lot faster, because in the decisions, whenever you make a plan, you're either feeding doubt or belief. Like nothing's ever neutral. And I think sometimes people think it is, but it's not. And because it's not neutral, this is what it looks like. I'm just not following through. And then you get apathetic. It's almost like, I don't really care. I just don't have a goal right now. Maybe I need a goal. Maybe it's something I need to set. Right. And then you're like that. And then you kind of feel like that kind of, you don't find anything. So it feels like in a funk. And then you're like trying some other outlets, or you're like trying to do new creative things, or you're trying to change things up, but it's still not the same. And then it inevitably, it will lead to like a depressive state, because psychologically that's where you're at. And so you got to give yourself, frame better questions, give yourself wins, meet yourself where you're at, build up that. I think this is so applicable, Sab. So like, thanks for sharing. Like, we're all like that, right?
Yeah.
I did it. I did literally, mine was when I went through this, like, it literally was like, just like show up at the gym.
Yeah.
But like now I have that, and like that confidence has bled into like all areas that I'm kind of unfolding. And so I think, yeah, just kind of evaluate if you're having a thought that's like, again, that's your inner critic. You're, for you, definitely, and I think this is a lot of people too, but like, I don't know, it's a mixed bag. Some people, their ego is much louder.
Yeah.
Some people, their inner critic is much louder. And you are like such a like beautiful, kind, loving, giving, ambitious woman, like badass. You got your YouTube, your podcast, you're just doing so much life. Like I saw you in your post, you're like, oh, I'm going to be like 28, like, damn bitch, you've done it. You're doing the damn thing. Like you are so incredibly successful. And with that comes a loud inner critic. And I think that it's important to know that you're never going to get rid of her. But right now, when you feel like, oh, I'm keep feeling I'm in a funk, I'm not doing good enough, that's an indicator that like when you're driving your car on this journey of life, she's like riding shotgun. And so you can't get rid of her, but like toss her in the trunk, duct tape her up, and like close that bitch. And like, so when she says things, it's more of a muffle rather than like her being like, turn left, like right there in your ear. So just like push with that. And I think everyone that's listening, I'm sure, can like offer themselves that level of compassion and problem solving. So
It's
like,
so interesting that you're bringing that up, because in prep, I feel like I'm training with my best friend, which is me. And I've told Kara this too. And it's like, I get so happy and positive because it's like me and my best friend are going to the gym. We're going to go live our best life. And it's literally like there's two people. And I have this like fuel of like, we're going to go after our goals. Like we're all happy and everything. And then when it's really not a prep, it kind of does go away. I've never really noticed it till like now, of like, it's more like this like sad person that I'm just dragging around. And now I can kind of like, I see my best friend in my best self. And then I see my like, I guess that's worse in me. It's just like that person that's like, it's like a friend that you don't really like. And it's just like, they're just like a nagging person. And they're just kind of like nagging. And you're just like, oh God, today we have to go train, even though we don't feel like it. And we're not going to really try today because yesterday wasn't a good day. And then we didn't hit our nutrition that great. So then our training is going to suck. And it's like this whole thing. And then meanwhile, your best friend, or my best friend in my head, is like, I miss you, like keep going. And so when you're saying that, I'm like, okay, I need to kind of get back to that. And it usually happens. It shouldn't happen when it's just in prep, but I think it's when I'm working on, like when I'm just doing what I said, I'm like, that's really what makes me happy. And that's why I really like prep. It's like, I wake up at the time I said I was going to wake up. I go to the gym at the time I was going to wake up. I just check my boxes. Like I said, I'm like, those little things make me really happy. And that's why I personally enjoy prep. It's just when I'm not in it, I feel like I'm on the opposite side where just because I'm not checking them in exact order or how I'm used to, I'm so hard on it. Like it's not perfectly checked. It might get checked, but like, ooh, I don't know if we can count that as a great cardio session. It's like I got my steps, but that wasn't super great. So yeah, just giving yourself that a little bit of grace of like you're getting what you can do now, and then yeah, like that's kind of
I think,
what I'm thinking.
yeah, it's about like, and I think this is so beautiful because it's like what so many of us want, right? Like, I think it's a reason, like you shared that you liked the WBFF prep, because it's like I was in it, but it wasn't like quite as extreme. And your heart is yearning, and so many are like, it's yearning for that, like more sense of like just a healthy life, balanced lifestyle. Like I can feel it so hard right now. Like I'm like, yes, it's like literally making me emotional, like feeling it, because she's right there. And it's not and honestly, what it is it's like, it's still holding yourself to a high standard and setting that execution on it, but setting appropriate like expectations, right? And so again, you really need like practicing. I did a New Year's call. I'm going to send it to you. I talked so much because like a lot of it is framed on practicing that all or nothing. But when it comes to kind like that aspect, for example, let's say you you like, you're going to get a gallon of water in. This is perfect. So like a gallon of water. Sometimes people think it's helpful to be like, so on my plan, it is to drink a gallon 7 days a week. And this week, you know, I gotta like, I want to have a little bit of balance. I want to show myself grace, whatever it is I'm going to do. My goal is 5 out of 7 days to get my water, right? So like, you're supposed to get a gallon every day. And I really like, sometimes people say it's like 80-20, whatever it is. Like if I do 5 days of getting water, I'm going to be proud of myself. But the 2 days that you don't get it, you're going to feel like ass. So instead of saying, and I will literally have this conversation, I'm always like, I'm going to do straight no chaser. Like, can you get a gallon of water in? Like, just yes or no. I don't fucking give it. Like, I could tell you, oh my God, you can make it work. But like, I don't care. It doesn't matter what I think. What do you think? I can't get a gallon in. Okay. It's really hard for me to get a gallon in. Okay. Is it hard to get 100 ounces in? Seems more manageable. Nope, bitch. I need 100, 90. Yeah, maybe 80. I can get 80 in. I can guarantee that I can get 80 ounces in. Do that. But like, accept that and do that and let that be enough, because at the end of the day, that's what you want. You want to be able to go to the gym, like, you know, 4 or 5 days a week and like do cardio on occasion and like eat balance, but like have a treat now and then do that. Then set your framework for that. It's like, it's setting a framework, but the way isn't saying like, sometimes I'm going to leave myself grace and let myself off the hook. That doesn't help you, because you're most of the time we're setting that goal because we're self-critical and it's out of shame. Like, I feel fat, so I'm going to set a goal to hit my nutrition. It's a shame-based goal. So whenever you don't hit it, you still feel shame. So then you're like, well, I feel like shame when I do, when I like set the goal and I miss it. And then I feel shame when I don't. So I might as well get the pleasure and just overeat. And so it can't be fueled in that way. It has to be fueled like a value-based goal is going to be really helpful here. But just in general, if you like set appropriate expectations and then continually meet them, you're now getting evidence. You're now living the life that you want. You're feeling more fulfilled. You feel proud. And so let that be enough where it's at, and know that that's going to get you the end product. And like, again, it's not just like, it's not necessarily just like just a mindset thing. It's like, you're learning how to like ride a bike or like a unicycle. Like you're just learning a new thing. You're learning how to ride a scooter. It's just different. Like, because when you get into like beating yourself up, oh, like you just said, oh, it shouldn't be that way. Does it make you feel good to be like, oh, it shouldn't be that way? Like, you're just beating yourself up more. It doesn't matter what it should or should not be. Who gives a fuck? Some people do. Some people do make their prep like off season. Some people are just assholes the whole way through. Some people binge eat the week before the show. And like, I like some people, like, you know, like this, like, they still get their pro card. And then who fucking cares what it should or shouldn't be, or what other people do or are not doing? Where are you at? What can you do? And what's going to help you feel good? At the end of the day, you're going to live a much better life that way and have the longevity in it. And so I think just like sitting down and get really, really honest, especially being a high achiever. Miss, they used to call me DeYampert, do too much. I do too much. Like, set it a little bit lower. Set it a little bit lower than what you think, and then let the momentum build from there. And so I think that's a little nugget there, especially with like off season. But
I love it. Well, I feel like this has been more than helpful for me and for everyone listening to this. This is perfect because this is going to go live on Valentine's Day.
oh,
So
so fun. We love
yeah,
it. Such a good one.
It'll be like a good like self-love kind of episode is where I'm feeling this vibes coming from. And like starting off the year of just like really looking at like off season or prep, because February is kind of like everyone's starting to get into it if they are, or they're
That's
just
a beautiful time to listen to this, right? Because you're in February and you're like, hey, am I getting ready for prep? Okay, sit down with a pen and piece of paper. Like I said, don't do this shit in your head. Like, I'm getting loud, I'm getting rowdy. Like one of my kids, I used to like teach elementary school, and one of my kids was like, do you like your teacher? Do you like Miss DeYampert? And he goes, I really like her, but she scares me sometimes. Like, that's what I wanted to be like. Fucking don't play. Like, don't play. Get a notebook out. And I want you to write down, be honest, and be fucking honest with yourself. It does jack shit to like, I'm going to be okay if I like don't get this place or whatever. Like, don't be honest. Okay. Set your expectations and your goals. Then put what you're willing to do, what you're willing to compromise, and then put your values and like what's most important. Then find the place. And this isn't going to like, let's say you decided no matter what, I'm going to prep. That's beautiful. We love that for you. Expectations. What am I willing to do? What are my values? And find the place where all three of those intersect and go there. Putting your blinders on isn't necessarily just like, well, I'm gonna put my blinders on and fucking grind and do 8 hours of cardio barefoot and like eat lettuce. No, blinders just means like, I'm going to embody what makes me feel my best. And so I think this is a great time to kind of like evaluate that and set that in to ensure that you have a good season. And then again, last nugget, when you're at the end of it and you're super tired and exhausted, be careful what you're getting dopamine from. Be careful if it's a scale. Be careful if it's your body. Be careful if it's check-in photos, right? Streamline that shit as much as possible. Like there's a reason like Olympians or people like that, like sometimes they'll say like, oh, I didn't even look at my check-in photos. Like protect your mindset. And so just use wisdom over pride and like do what you need to do and just be cognizant because know for every single ab check you do when you're super lean, you're going to pay for it on the other end. And just like, I think that's part of that discipline equation. Like what's the ROI?
Yeah.
What's the ROI on this? You're going to get high for a second, but like, just be cognizant.
I clearly remember in 2020, I was ab checking so hard, so hard. I was getting ready for nationals for the first time.
Yeah.
Every single time I was in the bathroom. Do I got abs yet? Do I got abs yet? Do I have yet? Look. Do you see this? It's a new ab. I am so excited. I'm getting leaner, blah, blah, blah. And I had to stop because I was like, you know what? Why am I doing this? But when it goes the opposite direction and I get a roll, I don't celebrate that. So
Yeah.
why am I pointing out this? This is retarded. Like, why are we doing this? I'm like, here, look at my ab thing. And I'm 2,700 weeks out, blah, blah, blah. I'd count my nationals down from like literally 52 weeks out. And I'd be like, okay, I'm going to get my packing list ready because it's coming. And just that obsession of constantly like, am I going to be lean enough today? Oh, I dropped 0.00001 or whatever. And once I stopped ab checking, like I clearly remember this time where I was like going for the ab check. I'm like, no, I have to look myself. You like just go in the mirror and look yourself in the eye, not the abs. And it will change a lot. So no matter what happens, like down here, if you can look yourself in the eye year round, and that's one little thing, which like the outside shell is always changing. It always is as we age, as we prep. If you're going to go up in body fat, you're going to go up in muscle, down in muscle, up, whatever. It's going to go up and down. But as long as you just like your inside, your outer shell is going to change no matter what. You can do a lot of things as far as competing goes to, get a little shoulder here or that or whatever. But you have to like the inside person because there's really no point of being a bodybuilder and looking amazing on the outside if like the inside is all messed up.
Yeah. And it really comes down to like, a great little frame is your expectations determine your experience. Right. And so taking it back to that vacation that I went on, my expectation of myself was to eat 4 to 5 meals of protein and veggies. That was like low bar, right? It was meetable. I asked myself, is there any situation while we're in Florida, right? We had an Airbnb. Is there any situation in which I would not be able to get a protein source and a cup or two of veggies? Like, because at the end of the day, like for us, I was like, worst case scenario, I come back too lean. What the fuck? Then we fill out a little bit more. Like, that's not it. So that was my execution. That was like my promise. And like, there were some things with working out, but I showed up for that. So like, I showed up for that. I showed up for that. And so when you add that simplicity into it and you show up for that, I came back from the vacation and I felt good. My body was in a good spot. I was eating the same fucking shit. Like I went to Walmart, picked it up. When my family went out to eat, I drank water. Like we just navigated it. I didn't make it that big of a deal. And so know that when it comes with prep too, just in general, as you're setting up your prep, this is important in like the coaching dynamic you have, because every coach might have more or less different requirements that they ask of you. Nothing's right or wrong. It's about finding your fit. I don't monitor. I definitely like monitor less things. Like I've never like, actually, I remember sitting on a consult with you and you're like, what's your waist? I was like, I don't know. I've never measured it. Like I literally never, I was like, I don't know what it is. And I was like, I think I asked my husband if he had one. He had one because he had to buy a banana hammock for his show. And like, You could like, and I know like people like Laura Lee has shared, like she doesn't look at her weight, right? And so you cannot, it doesn't matter. That's not like, oh, I'm better because I can, or I can, or I can't, whatever. At the end of the day, like it's like, what's best for you in the long run? And like, I want to feel fulfilled. I want to feel proud. I want to feel confident. I want to do what I say I'm going to do. So when I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to make sure I can do it. And so I think that's a great framework to remember as you're going into prep. And that doesn't mean don't set high expectations. Right. Like the show I came back for, I got first place and I got second call outs at my national show. That was my first national show. And honestly, there were a lot of factors that did not go my way that day. But like, I'm not sharing that like, oh, look at like, oh, I got these trophies or I got first place. Like, honestly, guys, I might never turn pro. Like whatever, it is what it is. But like, it doesn't mean you can't do well.
Yeah.
I think, and it's really important to hear the different stories of like, but no, this person, I listened on this podcast and they said that if you don't put 100 grams on it on the dot, then you're going to fail. Be careful what you listen to. If it doesn't make you feel good, don't listen to it.
Yeah, I agree with that a lot. I had to shut out. I mean, there's multiple times where I just have to like I set my social media time to like less than an hour a day. I go on strategically with an intention. I'm not looking at people. I don't care who shows up. I don't care who I compete against. I literally do not know anything other than what I need to know and what I need to do. I'm a little uneducated when it comes to the news that's happening around life because it's depressing and I don't need it. I don't ever watch the news. I feel like I don't care. I literally could not know anything besides what I need to know about. If there's a new article about health and fitness, I probably did read that. That's news that I want to know about. But if it's like some random thing that like I have no idea what's going on.
Yes, no, exactly. And you do that to protect your peace. Take that mindset into prep. And so that's why when you're picking someone, like let's say, okay, you're working with Sav, right? And so like Sav, you're coaching me and I'm telling you like, hey, these are my expectations. I'm working with her because I trust her because she knows about posing. She knows about suits. She knows about conditioning. She knows how lean I need to be. And so that is what I need. And so sometimes we can get caught up following other coaches. Oh, they might post something. Just go into a prep. Again, that trust, that belief, like build that rapport, go through, be very clear with your coach on your expectations and all of that. Like, I worked with Kiki for my first prep back postpartum, and she's very like on her, like fucking on her shit. And I remember us talking, I was like, that's not me. That's like, take me as I am. And I remember telling her, I was like, it was my first show postpartum. I was very nervous. I was nervous for a lot of reasons because I didn't know I was going to come back to the stage. We didn't even talk about my story. It doesn't really matter. But like, oh, fuck. I was like, I don't know if I can do this. There was a lot of self-doubt. And I acknowledged that in my wheelhouse, where my deficiency was self-belief. I had done at this point, like I've done 16, like I've stepped on, like I know what hunger feels like. I know food selection. I know choices. I know training. I know cardio. Like I have a good base of that. My hole was in self-belief. And at the time, Kiki had just turned into a coach. And I was like, she had the time and energy to pour into me. And so I think sometimes we can get caught up in like looking at these big name teams and like, let me go to them. And there's nothing good nor bad, but like, if you need that level of like intimacy and connection with someone and you need that, like I told her, I was like, I just need you to believe it. Like you got to keep telling me I can do this because I know what to eat. I know what to do. I can get my ass to stage. And she did. And I remember like because she had such a small roster at the time and she was like just starting. I remember like one time I checked in, like my check-in was lit. Like I would normally check in like 8 a.m. and my check-in, I think I sent it like 9 a.m. This bitch texts me at 8:45. She's like, I didn't see your check-in come through. And I'm like, that's what I fucking need. Someone who is ready for me to like, who's like there for me. And so like, if you're first time or like thinking about competing, my suggestion is like, make sure this person knows what they talk about. Like Sav knows what she's talking about. Like sometimes that can be really helpful in putting those like blinders on. Cause if you're on a big team, not only are you like following all the coaches, but like you're seeing everyone else on the team and you're seeing the Olympians on the team. And they're like, well, this person's like this and this person's like this. And I want to be like this and I want to be like this, like fucking stop. And so the beautiful part of that is I got what I needed out of that season and actually won the overall. That was my first overall that I won. It was such a beautiful moment. And my husband made a beautiful post after it. And he goes, it's not about what you achieved. It's who you were on the journey. And he just talked about like, you always put me and Gabby first. You never like faltered. You had a positive attitude. And like, that was what I wanted. Like, that was my trophy. physically, metaphorically, like that was it. The overall was a byproduct of that. And so as you're getting into this new season of like competing, whatever it is, maybe assess where you're at, where your deficiencies are. Take a second to like look, find someone that's going to support you, and really do your best to like quiet the outside noise and just like stay in that space, stay in that safe space. And then, things may change. It may evolve. Like then I needed to work with someone else because I was like, I had some gut stuff going on, like different things, and different seasons are going to ebb and flow. But I think that's another really good point or suggestion.
I love this. I feel like that's a great place to end it. It's just
Yes.
find people on your journey. If you're getting the stage, you can do it alone, but it's going to be a lot faster if you have a team, someone that's going to kind of
Don't do it alone. That's
yeah,
not
don't
fun.
do it.
Like, let's just say that, like, don't do it alone. That's not a good time. Like,
Yeah. I mean, some people can, and hats off to them,
yeah.
but I need help, and I need that, like, I need the wingman support. I need someone else to take that stress off of me. Anything else? So like if a competitor is listening to this and thinking about getting into like competing, or what is just like quick advice that you would give to a first time competitor?
Yeah. I think we have lots of little nuggets throughout here. So I'll just go off of that point where it's like, I know it can be an investment in like a coach, whatever dynamic. Know that the pricing here is different, call and get around, but that's a beautiful part of it. Like, I think part of the reason I would still keep when I'm shaking my 8 ball, and I know that let's say the 8 ball says, bitch, you're gonna get last place every single show. Like, let's say it says that. Do I still decide to be in this world? Do I still decide to compete? Yes. Because what I get out of it is far greater than any costs associated with it. Okay, well, financially, this shit's expensive, but like, and a large part of that is because of the community. It's because of friends. Like when we were talking, I was like, hey, I want to come on the podcast. I was like, I don't care. Let's just talk about whatever. Like, I just want to chit chat. Let's catch up. Tell me where you are in life. Like, it's just the fun. It's the connection. That's how you make the memories. When I look back on all of my shows, like literally my first show was in 2014 and 16 shows, 9 years, almost. I mean, we're going on 10, right? I look back and I see the people and I see the memories and I see the laughs and I see the tears and I see the people that were there to celebrate with me, that gave me a hug when I was feeling down. Like, we are creatures of love and belonging. And you don't need to do it alone. You shouldn't need to do it alone. Like, there's no more like, oh, I did it all by myself. That's not heroic. That's not cool. Like, I'm not like, I think sometimes people play that card. Like, I just wanted to show myself that I could do, like, why? Why are you going to make shit harder? On my grave, on my tombstone, it's going to say, RIP, Arielle, how can I make this shit easy? Right? And so don't make prep harder than it needs to be. Don't do it alone. Like, don't do it. So anyways, I guess that would be my last little nugget aside from everything else we shared.
Anything else? I'm gonna give you, I mean, this is your chance.
No.
This is your chance to
That's like,
shine.
we're gonna stop an hour. That was 2 hours in. No, literally, that was it though. Like, I literally just wanted to like talk. And I was like, we could talk about my journey. We could talk about, like, it doesn't matter.
Same.
Like,
I'm game for whatever comes out. And that's usually how we run things here. It's just like, you got some words, I got some words. We'll put them on there. We'll put them on the podcast. If anyone is listening to this, if you got anything where if they want to work with you or if they want to find you, where can they do so?
Instagram at Mrs. DeYampert. So yeah, it'll be there. And I'm just like sharing little things of it. I think when we're talking about sharing the podcast, YouTube, all that is so helpful. Just like hear and connect and just kind of like put yourself out there. And so the only reason I have this, everything I just shared, like we've shared in the past fucking 2 hours, is that I did it. I walked down the road. Like, I was a jaded competitor. I did all the bullshit. I binge ate way. And then I was like all the things. I am going to be good. We're going to start on Monday. I got to do prep because prep's the only thing that keeps me accountable. I got to do this. Like, I've been there and I've done it. So like, if I can save anyone a year or two
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Some of the things I used to do, I'm like, what? Why did I do those to myself? Why did I think those thoughts? Why was I eating that? Like, why was I eating tilapia for literally like 3 months? Like, I could have had chicken. I could have
had chicken. So, yeah. Oh my gosh. Or like this one, I know this, a lot of people, so my first show in 2014, it was like let's just call it fat to fit journey. Cause I was like over 200 pounds, like at the very beginning. And so I did that show and then I was like, okay, I like this. I want to do it again. And then 2015 was when I won first place, and I won first place multiple times, and I placed every show that I did. And then I had this like self-inflicting pressure. We all have had that season, right? Well, God bless. Hopefully not if you have that season, but like the 2016 was hell. 2016 was my worst placing season, everything, because I put so much pressure on myself to be like, well, you got first place. So now you're going to turn pro. And this is where every I did a whole like cardio session in my clothes from work. Like it was just like everything was so meticulous and overthought and measured and like neurotic. And I like, no wonder I had gut issues, and I fucking was waking up at 2 a.m. and I was like running on adrenaline. Like, and it's like weird because I thought I was fine, right? Hindsight's 2020, but like there's a notion like pressure is a privilege. And it's really important how you interpret that and where that pressure is coming from, because there is the pressure that is that negative pressure that will break you. When you tie pressure to fear, this is like, so if you have pressure and you're tying it to fear, like I'm scared if I don't, that's the pressure that like crumbles people. And they're like, I don't want to put too much pressure on myself. That's that. When you take pressure and you tie it to like opportunity, that's the pressure that's a privilege. And so pressure, the show date, is a beautiful thing. It does make us move. It does make us change. And this is where I think people get so dogmatic about things. No, pressure is real. Just be cognizant of not tying pressure to fear and tying pressure to optimism or like opportunity. Because had I approached that 2016 season, I went into it like, I got first place, so now I have to get my pro card. And if I don't get my pro card, I failed. And like, it was such a fear of like, I was going to let my coach down. I was going to let these people down that were supporting me. I was going to let everyone else down. And like, I wanted to show up. And, you know, now I'm climbing the ring, whatever the fuck my fucking shit was, my 25-year-old self. And that was that season. Hell, didn't like it. Hard after, hard post show, bro. Like, fuck. But no shit, Sherlock. So then I have now where, obviously, we thank God we learned. I go into this thing where it's like, I won the overall in 21 postpartum, and I got first place at a couple of shows, and I got second calls at a national show, and I think it was like ninth. I don't know. But then I was like, okay, cool. And then I went into the next season, and there was that pressure there still because I wanted to show up, and I invested a lot physically, mentally, emotionally in the prep. And I'm like, how fucking cool would it be if I did turn pro? Like, could you imagine that? I was like, Dan, if I turn pro, you'll buy me one of those belts. I'm gonna do a photo shoot just in the belt. Like, it's gonna be so cool. Do you think that both of us could turn pro one day with the DeYampert pros? Like that, he's natural. He's not turning pro. But like, we're just like, I tied it with a sense of like opportunity. And I'm like, that would be so cool. That would be so fun. And I really, really honed in and focused on the people. So though it was a little bit more expensive, I like travel. I know you did too. Like I've traveled for my shows. I was like, I want to do one in Vegas. I want to do, I did Junior USAs. I was like, I want to do one. I did one in Wisconsin. I'm like, I just want to, and every single show I did was to be with people. Because I wanted to be with people. Because I wanted to make the memories out of it and use it as an opportunity. And so I have a pressure to show up as my best. And I'm going to have these memories in this experience with these people. And I strategically also placed like Vegas as our last show because I was like, bro, like my husband and I have never been to Vegas as adults. We were not adults. And we just like stayed up all night. And like that memory is so ingrained in me. And like if it wasn't for competing and doing that, I would have never. So I think if you find yourself going into the season 2 with like that anxiousness, like, you know, people say like anxiety and excitement feel the same.
Yeah.
It's because it's what it's tied to. So like really work on tying it to the opportunity script instead of the fear-based one.
Oh man, yeah. Like this year / last year, it was, I feel like I went on a roller coaster ride, because when I think about my last NPC prep to nationals, I was so freaking proud of that physique, and I battled and I grinded for that physique, and I feel like I got to stage. I was so on this high. I was on this high. I was like, it's coming. The pro card is coming. This is the one. I'm doing it. And I had a crystal ball that day. And I was like, I'm turning pro right now. Like no one could have told me differently. In my head and heart, I believe that 100% that was happening. And then it didn't happen. And like, I felt like I ripped in half and like it shattered something. And it was heartbreaking because I tied so much of self-worth to a goal. But I ended up having like the most fun with my friends, my family, like my boyfriend came to surprise me. Like there was all these good things that happened. And I just had that distinct memory of placing. Like that's it. But then it's like, wait. No, I remember we went and we had ice cream, we had this amazing dinner and all this stuff. We had so much fun. And it was really hard for my mind to accept. And it was the weirdest thing that had ever happened because I had put so much effort into planning and there was no like plan B. It was,
Mhm.
I only thought in going into 2023, I was going to be a pro. And I had no, like, literally no fucking idea what I was going to do with my life if I didn't turn pro because that just wasn't an option. That just wasn't anything. Like, the whole prep was like pro card, just pound it into my skull. And there was nothing. I had nothing. So the second that I got into the new year, which was 2023 this year, and I failed. All that was a waste.
Mhm.
Why did I even prep? Why
Yeah.
did I even waste 5 years? Am I dumb for putting myself out there? I should never
Yeah.
compete again. I'm going to retire. This is dumb. I am hungry. I am tired. I don't want to
Yeah.
compete. And like all those things happened. And then I decided, it was like, you know what? Okay, I'm not getting, this is not healthy for me. I said, this is not healthy for me. I need to make a switch that's going to be aligned with my values and what I want to look like. And do I even want a pro card? Do I even want to look like that? I don't think so. I think maybe that's why
Yeah.
I'm not able to put everything into it because I don't know if I really want it, but I think I want it because I've been doing it for so long. And then when I made the switch and when I switched, I finally was like, learning from my posing coach, which was someone that was different outside of bodybuilding, who is like more of like a dance background, like pageant background. And she finally taught me like confidence and like she just every time we would pose, she's like, you need to act like a bad bitch all the time. Like she's like, you can't, she's like, if you don't believe in yourself as being this like amazing, awesome winner, person, pro, whatever, she's like, how are the judges gonna believe it? And so it was that every week we'd work together and just like building self-belief. And every single week it was like, oh, I think I can do this. Oh, I think I can do this. And then I wanted to do it more and I wanted to do it more. And it was getting exciting. We are building like this crazy, I don't know, like it was a really like a turning point in the self-belief of
Hmm.
I think I had doubts before, but it was the first time when I stepped on stage, it didn't matter to me if I turned pro or not. And that was a weird thing to say because I kind of accepted that that's not what I was doing it for. It's like I
Yeah.
don't need to do this for an outcome. I'm doing this for the process. And I really love the process and I like what I've become during preps. So when I took that out of it,
Hmm.
I mean, I ended up hitting my goal because I wasn't
Yeah.
so much pressure. There wasn't so much pressure to perform. There wasn't so much pressure. It was like, I want to just go and have fun. Like I worked really hard for this physique. I want to enjoy it. And then I want to go out
Yeah.
and have fun. And it's in a
I,
fun location.
yeah. I think it's a big part, a big chunk of that. I was like literally taking notes. A big chunk of that is releasing the expectation. Right. So you release the expectation because it was new, it was novel. Now, can you take that and bring it into, let's say you wanted to compete NPC again? I don't know exactly the pro card situation, but like if you were, we're going to
Yeah.
play hypothetically. Can you bring that no expectation mindset into an NPC prep? Yes, but it's going to take a lot of mental work because you have shit that happened. And like you look back on that Florida vacation and you're going to remember feeling hard, feeling heavy, feeling sad. Like, yes, you had beautiful moments, but the stronger emotion wins. And that moment of like, I'm expecting this and that having that, holy fuck, it didn't happen.
Like
Like,
I could feel my
yes,
dopamine dropping. Like I could literally feel something in my brain break. Like I swear to
yeah,
you, the second
no,
it's like
yeah,
like the emotion that comes like in on I distinctly remember it just like you were saying on stage when I'm standing and I'm literally shining in
and you're
my
like, first
front
call out, you're like, I'm
pose.
just waiting,
Here we go. I'm
re
once I get this
whatever,
pro card, here we go. I'm ready. I'm ready. And then she's like,
and it
and you're
doesn't
waiting for your
happen.
number and you're like, but mine's not in first call outs. What the fuck? And then
Um,
they called me in like second call outs and I'm like at the very end of second call outs. And in my head, I swear, I'm it's just crickets. It's like a really awkward moment of like, oh fuck, what do I do now?
Yeah. There's a movie, Wish. It just came out. I don't know if you heard of it. So the notion is like everyone has this wish. It's so good. And of course I look at it through this lens. It's a cartoon I watch with my daughter and it's like a Disney movie. Um, Everyone has this wish and they go to this like emperor magical guy, the sorcerer, and they give him his wish. They give them the wish, they give the wish away, and this wish goes up, and he basically gets to pick whose wish is granted, right? And he doesn't pick wishes that are dangerous, that are like audacious, big, scary goals. Like he doesn't pick those because it's too dangerous to have that sense of like optimism and hope. And there's a part where there's this like bad scene and he starts crushing people's wishes, their bubbles. And all of a sudden they're just like standing there. They're in another room because it's their wish. And they're like, I don't know. And then they don't know what's happening because they can't see their wish getting crumbled. But they go like, it just feels sad. And I hurt. And I think that's important to acknowledge like that physiological, like your wish, it broke. And it's like, you feel that and you feel it on such a deep level. And it's hard because I know where your mindset was, where it's like, I want to believe and I want to believe 100% because if I don't, then I'll have that doubt that it's like, if I would have said, like, when you said no, like, no option, I'm not turning pro. And like, there is no plan B. There's some like fantasy that comes with that. And we get a high from that. Like, fantasies are written in like movies and books for a reason. Like, fantasies feel good. And so you were fantasizing. And there's nothing like bad with that. Right. And I think what changes like the whole idea of like manifestation, right? Because I bet you were like manifesting that I'm manifesting it, right? And I think the difference between a manifestation and like a fantasy is like in the manifestation, we realize we're not in control. And we have to release that timeline with it when we know we're not in control. Like it's like I gave everything I got, and like the rest is up to whatever you believe in, God, Jesus, whatever. And so the difference there, when you were like living in your fantasy world, which we've all done. I lived in my fantasy bubble too, but we can't fucking live in a fantasy. That's not going to end well. And so when they manifest it, when I'm like, I'm going to turn pro, I'm going to do really well. Like, I'm going to give this 100%. Like, you can still give 100%. You can still like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to give it my all. I am going to leave no stone left unturned. That's going to let me walk up with the most amount of confidence because the way you explained it, it's like the NPC prep, like this where I'm always like, don't get it twisted where I like the NPC prep, you walked on confident. You said I was feeling myself. Like I felt good. Like I was turning pro. Like I felt confident. And you also felt confident in like the WBFF one that you did. So like you felt confident in both happened. One, you were living in a fantasy. The other one, you were like that like, you know, innocence, that like no expectation. And that's really the only differentiator between the two that we walked into. And then when you like manifest it, like, and I said, like, you know, release a timeline and no, it's giving 100% and then getting to that moment. And so like you're standing there and you're like, I fucking got this. I worked my ass off. I posed, I did everything, fucking waist trainer, tilapia, whatever I did.
Yes.
And they didn't call my number. And I'm like, okay, it's not my time. Mm-hmm. And that's a sting versus a crumble. Yes. It's not my time. And really leaning into that. And I'm going to say easier said than done. You have to, it's a learned, so for my daughter, we had infertility, which, you know, we had IVF. And it taught me this skill because I really had to lean in. Because when it comes to IVF, honestly, a lot of correlations to stepping on stage. When you do IVF, and let me tell you, it's fucking expensive time, energy, a lot of needles. There was only a 47% chance I was going to have a daughter. Was I willing? And so think about it like prep like that. Are you willing to prep if there's a 10% chance that you'll get the placing you desire? Because that's the reality of it. I did 7 IUIs. Every IUI had I'm getting loud, sorry. Every IUI had a 10% chance that I was going to do it. But I also knew simultaneously that it wasn't, that in that 10%, that 10% wasn't going to happen if I didn't take every shot and go to every appointment. And so there were times where I'm like, does this shot really fucking matter? Like, is it going to matter? And I'm like, you know, I don't know, but I'm willing to do it for the 10%. So when you're going through the prep, still have that mantra. Like, it's beautiful. I know you did it with beautiful intent where you're like, I am going to give it 110%. There's no other option. I'm leaving no stone left unturned. I'm going to do this because I believe in myself. And I'm going on the stage and I want to have that confidence. And you did it and you fucking worked your ass off and you look 10 out of 10. You look so good. We loved the red. You were looking amazing. And you stepped on with that confidence and you were glowing. And it was in that place. And then it's really leaning in and acknowledging like, I got a 10%, but I'm going to do it for that 10%. Because I'm going to keep going. And right. And so you do it. And again, it's going to feel a sting. It would be abnormal for it to not, but it's much different. A sting versus like, I'm broken. And I learned that the hard way because my first IVF cycle broke me.
Yeah.
And I would go through a fucking million preps over that. And so I think it helped me learn that, because when I went into it, we're talking how much time, money, energy. And I had people praying over my belly. And I was like, this is going to be my baby. And I was telling my husband, he really wants a baby. Like, we were in it. And I was like, I'm fucking manifesting it. I'm not going to say it. I am pregnant. From the second they did that transfer, I was like, the baby's inside of me. Yes. And I'm like looking at, I'm starting to make a baby registry. Like, I'm manifesting like where I'm going to put my pro card, you know, like you got the frame for it. I'm ordering the belt, you know, people order their belt ahead of time, or like I wrote IFBB Pro on I made a fake card, whatever. We did all the bullshit. I did all this stuff with fertility in that aspect. And I will never forget the day, like how you crumbled. I was at a stoplight at the corner near my house and I felt something wet and I realized I got my period. And in that moment I broke and I didn't know what was next. I didn't know if I would ever be a mom. I didn't know if I could do it again. I didn't know if I could put myself through that. Like, I didn't know if I could drag myself through that work, that time, that money, that energy, to know that like I still only had a 47% chance. And I took a little bit of time. I took a couple months. I decompressed. And I was just like, if this is something I want, the only way to guarantee it's never going to happen is to just completely stop.
Yeah.
There will be a time and it will be a day, but I had to be okay with, and everyone listening, you have to be okay with doing everything. Decide that beforehand. Decide this in February. I'm okay with doing everything to know that I still won't get it at the end.
Yeah.
And that I think because I went through that IVF, like, then I went to that magic ball situation and I was like, if I knew the future, I would still do it. And just if anyone doesn't know, I had my baby girl. I had her in 2020. She's the little cutest thing. I'm probably biased, but she is like our world. And like I told you, we want to try and have another one. That's scary.
That's scary.
Like I'm getting myself really ready for that. And it's very comparable where like, I know I'm gonna have to put a lot of work in and I'm getting myself ready physically, mentally, emotionally to give 100 fucking percent, because I'll be damned if I don't, because I'm not going to waste it. I'm not going to waste an opportunity. I'm not going to waste this chance because it is something I desire. And that's the last caveat that you said. Just because something is hard to obtain doesn't mean that it's valuable to you.
Yeah.
An IFBB card is very hard to obtain. It is a level of status, but it does not mean it matters to you. So just because something is like, oh, it's hard to attain, so that means it's valuable. No. Value is determined by you and what is important in your life. And so, like for me, I was willing to go through that, right? That pain, all that, because I wanted a daughter. I wanted a baby. I didn't care if it was a boy, but like I wanted a baby. I was willing to go through that. And so check yourself. Check yourself. Does it mean that much to you? It could. Like, I'm still going to pursue a pro card after. I don't know what that's going to look like. Maybe I'll compete when it's still a baby. Maybe I'll compete when I'm 40, maybe I'm 50. I don't fucking know. Like, whatever it is. But I do want to get a pro card. Like, I am going to keep trying. I'm okay with never getting it. I'm okay with putting all the work in for a 10% chance, because it does mean something to me. Bodybuilding has forever changed who I am at my core. I don't think I would have made it through fertility treatment if I didn't have, because there were so many times where I was driving to the office in the morning. I had to get my blood drawn every day. And I was like, bitch, you did 2 hours of cardio for like that long. And I would tell myself those mantras and I would play those songs. And I had that, and it kept my spirit alive in that essence. And so it gave so much to me that like, I'm willing to keep fighting for however long that does. Always competing for me now, having a child and being in my 30s looked much different than my selfish ass at 24. Like doing all things, like it looks different. I'm okay with it looking different. I'm okay with it looking different. I'm okay with never getting my pro card. It is something I want to achieve. It is something that adds value to my life. It is something that has forever changed me, and I'm grateful for. I love the community. I love the people. I hope to be Renee one day. Fucking like,
I
we
do
love her.
I love Renee so much.
And so when you can get that part of the mindset aspect going into the situation in that lens, it's just a ding or a sting instead of a breaking. And then it also allows you to compete in whatever federation, to whatever extreme or whatever situation you want, and know that my experience is predicated on how I show up, my belief, and my expectations. And when you gave a perfect illustration of why you should have why that coach matters, because if you don't believe in yourself, I didn't. I did not. I had just gone through fertility. I had a baby. I wasn't quite sure if I could make it. I literally said, I need you to believe in me, because I don't. And self-belief is the number one driver for self-control, right? And so you were like, I believed in myself and I had evidence. I was showing up. I was confident, and like all of that snowballs and perpetuates. And so because you did that, and then you weren't expecting anything, it was just like the cherry on top. But that's so important to like hold on to, because don't get caught up in like the minute detail, even if it's like, oh, I should do this show or this show or this federation or that federation, like this one's going to be better. People have incredible experiences and people have fucking miserable experiences. People love tracking macros. Like I work with girls who literally will track macros till the day that they die. And I have girls that have never tracked a single macro in their life and they think it's a jail cell. Neither right nor wrong. It's all circumstantial. It's what do you want out of it? And so I think when decide, like, like that, what's valuable, set appropriate expectations. Magic Ball says you have a 10% chance. Are you still willing to do it? Show up and enjoy it.
Yeah.
Like enjoy that value. Like one of my values is like, and this is a really important, I think a great activity, like go through like your values as a whole. But like one of mine is like play and pleasure. It is. Like, I'm not trying to save all the good shit for the end. I want to have a good time now. And that's important for me to incorporate in that. And so getting clear on how you embed that in your journey is now we're on 3.5 hours. No, it's 3:30, but we're 2.5 hours in. So 2 hours in.
No, I mean, we might have to have you on for a part 2 at this point. So
perfect. I would love to. I would love to like catch up and talk. Like, yeah. So anyone, whatever, send me a message. Selfishly, I literally just wanted to like chat because I was like, I haven't talked to you in a long time. So let's just talk.
I know. It is good to get caught up, even if it takes 3 hours. I mean, I could still keep going, but I think I mean, because like between us, there's like, I think 20, you said 16 shows. So I'm like doing the math. I'm like, okay, so we competed in like 26 shows, like almost 30 shows. Like that's a lot of experience. It does take more than one time just to figure out like how to prep and how it's going to fit into your lifestyle. And it is something that like it evolves as you do. Each prep is different, but whether you're starting or you're a seasoned athlete, make sure that you're ready to get into it. And like you said, set your expectations up at the beginning of it. That way, like when you get to the end goal, like you can look back at that entire process, regardless of the outcome, you're happy with how you got to the stage.
Yeah. And really leaning into that. And that's such a good point too, like with our experiences. I think it's important to like normalize some of those things. Like we talked about, I was like, yeah, I've done that too. Every single season that you shared, like I was like, yeah, we've both been through things like that. And so
nut butter. Oh gosh, I ate so much nut butter. It's disgusting. Like I used to eat just like, there's this one post show where go to the store, get the grocery bag, and it's like cookies, candies, like 3 grocery bags full of food. All consumed in less than 3 hours. Like I swear, after the show, it was like, let me have some of this, let me have some of that. I was eating sushi post show like for a whole week, just every day. I was having sushi as my meals. Like I was eating all these different crazy things, like doing all the cardio until I had like shin splints, like never taking rest days. Thinking more is more, eating less is better. Like never taking.
Please take from our wisdom and like
never taking off seasons, like just being scared of the off season, being scared of like actually building muscle, being scared of training hard, like all those little things. Like you got to make mistakes sometimes, but if we can help you not make those mistakes, I hope you guys got some good tips and tricks out of this episode. But we will be back on Wednesdays. This is Valentine's Day, so it's a great self-love day to listen to and then move forward with life. So if you guys want a part 2, let us know. So drop us some comments, or you can screenshot this and DM us, tag us on Instagram, and we will talk to you guys next week.
Awesome. Bye. Thanks for having me on.
Bye.